What's happening, hardscapers? This is episode 38 of the How to Hardscape podcast, where we talk to you about how you can start and grow your hardscaping business. And today we're joined by Alex from Techo-Bloc. He's the director of business-to-business marketing and talks with us today about outdoor living spaces, why you should be focusing on bringing your clients as much value as you can with these features, and how you can use the products and resources that Techo-Bloc has available to improve your efficiency and put more money into your pocket. So without further ado, here's our interview with Alex.
Today we are joined by Alex Cadieux. He is the Director of Business-to-Business Marketing for Techo-Bloc, and he's here today to talk with us about outdoor living spaces and selling your clients on them. Alex, thank you so much for joining us here.
Thanks for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to join us here, and I'm excited to talk with you about outdoor living spaces. But let's get started first talking a little bit more about yourself. Can you give our audience a little bit of a background about what you do, what brought you to this point in your life working for Techo-Bloc?
So right now I'm the Director of Business-to-Business Marketing, as you said. So that just means that I work together with my team at Techo-Bloc to take care of everything pertaining to the trade. So everything for contractors, for dealers, for architects, designers, engineers, all the content, all the assets, all the tools that we can possibly bring to the market to help them succeed in running their businesses and grow the industry together. How I got here is kind of interesting because I grew up basically in the industry because of my dad. So I guess a lot of the listeners out there, they went to work with their dad and their dad was a hardscaper or a landscaper. I went to work with my dad who was a sales rep for a hardscape manufacturer for a long time. So as young as 8 years old, I was on job sites, meeting with contractors, running and getting samples out of the back of my dad's car and showing them to people and getting to understand the industry. Later on in life, I worked as a landscaper. I ended up building a lot of patios in the summertime. And then I started working at Techo-Bloc right out of university as a sales rep. Went across the country, opened up a lot of different markets, became the director of sales for Canada for a period of time, and then moved over into the marketing team to be able to better serve the community of contractors out there and make sure that we're able to deliver the best value possible. So that's how I ended up here.
Amazing, and I'm excited to talk with you about outdoor living spaces. And obviously, you've been in the industry for some time now, so you've seen some evolution of outdoor living spaces. Even myself, in the short amount of time that I've been in the industry, I've seen a lot of change. And it's really exciting, the different features that are coming out to market that are easier to install for contractors to implement in their business to help them earn a little bit more revenue in their business. Can you talk a little bit about the evolution of outdoor living spaces from what you've seen since your start in the industry?
What I've seen has been amazing in terms of what we've seen as changes. When I started, a hardscape project was a small patio, 10 by 10, 20 by 20. You had a handful of products to choose from. Maybe you would see a seat wall that would just kind of frame in the perimeter. Everything was built really tight up against the house and not really optimizing the space at all. Drainage was always a challenge. And everything that had to do with the living part was left to someone else. So if you wanted a barbecue or a grill, well, you went to a store, you bought that, you plopped that on the patio. You wanted a fire pit, you went to a store, you bought a fire pit, you plopped that on the patio. You want some seating, well, you go out, you buy some chairs, you plop that on the patio. And what we've seen, and I like to believe that we've been a driving force in that change a lot through Contractor Showcase, is showing how we can use these extremely durable and beautiful materials to create amazing outdoor spaces that stand the test of time and really bring value and transform the lives of homeowners across North America. So what used to be just a basic flat patio with some furniture on it now is a full outdoor living space. It's basically a house without the ceiling and without the 8-foot or 10-foot tall walls around it. And that's super exciting to see because it opens up a world of possibilities for everybody in this industry to grow their businesses and grow it healthily, sustainably, and profitably.
Yeah, and I really feel like if hardscapers aren't offering these features to their clients right now, they're missing out on a lot. So why do you feel hardscapers should be selling their customers on these different features, on these outdoor living spaces?
Well, I think the short answer is money and growth. The long answer is If you want to be able to differentiate your company, if you want to be able to deliver the best value possible to the customers, and you want to be able to grow your revenue and grow your profits, then you need to be offering as much as possible to the customer. If you think about it from this perspective, if I'm trying to grow my business, I can do it two ways. I can either sell more stuff or I can sell better stuff. Selling more stuff means that I need to output more product for the customers to buy. And that means that I need to input more effort in the form of getting more equipment, getting more people, and selling more contracts, which means I need more leads. I need to run more sales calls. It's more. And that requires a lot of investment, a lot of time. On the other side, selling better stuff means that I could potentially have the same input, the same people, the same equipment, the same number of leads, the same number of contracts sold, the same number of sales calls run, but with some better direction and a little bit of a shift in my focus, I could increase the revenue and increase the profits. And what that looks like in a real example is if you're selling a patio and all you're selling is the 20 by 20 pavers, so 400 square feet of pavers as your patio, there is a lot of competition in that space. And because there's a lot of competition in that space and a lot of people are able to offer that product, that finished patio to the customer, that means that the profitability for your business is controlled mostly by the market. When you start getting into things that not everybody does and not everybody does well, for example, offering things like custom built fire features or water features or cooking features or seating features or things like that, or even creative inlays and mosaics to dress up that pavement, now you're doing something where the air is a little rarer and there's a little bit less competition. And that means that the pricing and ultimately your profitability is influenced by fewer parties. Therefore, you're more in control of the revenue and the profits that you can make. So I think that's the long answer as to why you should be looking at including outdoor features in your package that you offer to your customers.
Yeah, and it's so important to maximize the amount of money, and not just money, but the amount of value that you can provide your customers. Instead of just offering a simple patio, why not offer these different features that's not only going to help your business, but is also going to help the customer and their enjoyment out of that outdoor living space, out of that more than just a patio project.
100%. If I could just add to that,
Yeah.
I know I mentioned money, and money is what keeps the business rolling, but money cannot be the main motivator. So just to reinforce what you just said, if you're delivering the greatest value to the customer, that should be your goal. The result of that is the money. And if you have that as your mindset, the growth that you'll see and the fun that you'll have in that growth is going to be a lot more motivating to get up and go to work every day than if all you're thinking about is the dollars and cents at the end. So I think that's an important distinction to make. Thanks for highlighting that.
Yeah, absolutely. And for some hardscapers that aren't currently even offering these different features or these outdoor living spaces to their clients, it can be a little bit daunting to bring this up in a sales conversation, to be able to talk with it with a customer. So where does a hardscaper start with all of this? What kind of features do they bring up in conversation to customers in the sales process? How do they know what features to talk about with their customers?
That's a great question. It makes me think of when I started in sales like 15 years ago. You're going to meet people and you want to pitch them on something that you know is one of your higher priced items, and you start thinking of all the reasons why they won't want to buy it from you. They're going to say this is too expensive. They're going to feel insulted that I tried to rip them off by offering them this really expensive thing, and that's a mindset shift that you need to tackle as quickly as possible in your career in sales. And everybody who's running a small business is 100% in a sales function for their company. You have to be out there meeting customers. You have to be bringing the revenue in to keep your business afloat. So the best advice before getting into anything really tactical or technical, the best advice is shifting to that mindset that we're in a market of abundance. No matter what the market is saying, no matter what the economy is indicating, we're in a market of abundance because there are more customers than you will ever be able to do business with in your life that exist out there. And there's more money out there than you'll ever be able to have. And just with those two things, all of a sudden there's a lot less pressure on you to try to make things happen, because you understand that ultimately the customer's going to go with what they feel is the right fit. Your job is just to present to them what you believe to be the right fit for them. So that takes a lot of the pressure off. The next part, to answer your question, is how do I know what to offer them? It's by asking questions to get to the heart of who they are and what they really want to achieve. If you start getting into a conversation, the first thing you're talking about is what's the size of the patio and what materials do you like, and do you want a grill island or do you want a fire feature? You're asking a lot of questions that lead to a lot of yes or no answers. These are defined as closed-ended questions, and they make a conversation really tough to have because things feel more like an interrogation than anything else. And it also really limits the possibilities for you and the customer. So my best advice would be to have conversations that start really more on feelings, on emotions, on past experiences, so you can get a sense of who this person is. And then you use your experience and your expertise to start to make recommendations that you think fit with their situation. So for example, if you ask them, when you think of spending time outdoors, if you close your eyes and you imagine spending time outdoors, what do you see? And if they start saying, like I just imagine like hiking through the woods and hearing like a babbling brook or a stream off in the distance, well, that's an example of, okay, you make a little note there, and maybe there's an opportunity to talk about some kind of water feature so that you can get the sound and the look of running water in their backyard, because that was the first thing that came to mind when they thought of being outdoors. If they say it's camping and it's spending time around the fire with the kids, well, then obviously a fire pit or a fire feature may become an option. If the outdoors to them screams backyard parties and grilling and having a good time, well, then cooking features are probably something that fit a bit more. I mean, I could go on and on with this type of conversation, but ultimately what we're trying to do is just get a little bit of feelings, a little bit of emotion out of that customer, because you're changing how they're thinking in your conversation too. And now they're reacting emotionally instead of being very rational. And that puts you in a good position from a sales perspective to start to pull at those heartstrings and give them things that they deep down in their heart, they really want to have. And then that also kind of takes pricing out of the equation early as well, because now you're talking about, in a dream world, what would you have? And then your job as the contractor, as the expert in the scenario, is to figure out, how can I deliver that dream to you as efficiently as possible so that I can come close to meeting whatever budget you have, but give you as much value as possible and as much enjoyment as possible. And if you're able to find that balance, then you're in a great place. Then you're going to have a business that no one can beat.
Absolutely. And there's a few things that I want to highlight that you talked about there. One, it's a mindset shift for these contractors to be able to say, I'm going to start to offer these to my customers, to my clients, because it's going to provide them with so much value. It would be a disservice not to offer them to my customers, to my clients. And you brought up a bunch of different questions that you would ask there to understand what kind of features you would offer. And those are great questions, because you also talked about the emotional response to those questions. And that's where you want your customers to be, in those emotional responses to the questions that you're offering, to help them envision a dream landscape design that they want. And then it's up to you to bring that to reality as a hardscaper. Now, how can hardscapers now, let's get a little bit more tactical here. How can hardscapers now sell their customers on these features? Or let's highlight some objections maybe that would come up with a customer, because I think sales is all about knowing any objections that may come up in the process of selling, and so preparing these hardscapers for these objections.
Yeah, I think, like you said, a big part of sales is anticipating the objections. But like I said, with that mindset shift, it's not living in the world of objections. It's just knowing what to do if that happens. That's a huge difference there. Obviously, one of the big objections becomes price or becomes budget, just because a lot of homeowners end up coming up with a number in their head based on how much money they have to spend. And then they start looking, okay, like I really like to do my backyard. They start finding some ideas, like I could maybe spend like 30,000 or maybe 50,000 on the backyard. They have no idea what that actually buys. So right off the bat, that puts you in a position where if you're getting into the nuts and bolts of a design or of what you can build too early in the conversation, you're potentially shutting down the potential or the opportunity for building those different things. So before getting to price, I think it's important to understand what are your options as a contractor in dealing with a design for a customer. One of the big things is being able to phase out projects, which shouldn't be a surprise to anybody, but I think sometimes it's one of those things that in the heat of the moment we forget about. And I think if we come back to that question, that close your eyes and what's the dream backyard, think about how could you possibly phase those things in, whether it be a fire feature or an outdoor kitchen or things like that, so that we can build what you can afford right now. And we come back in a year or two and we add those other things in so that, you're planning on staying in this house for 15, 20 years. So what's the big deal if, it takes you 2 or 3 years to get to that dream state, than sacrificing or compromising what you really want and just getting like 75% of the dream now. So I think that's part of it. Another part of it is being smart about what you're offering to the customer. And being smart means really understanding what you can build and what you can use to build it. So, for example, how we came up with this idea, or how I believe that this becomes such an important tactic, is through the contractor showcase events that we put on every year throughout the winter, those 40 to 50 events across North America, where we see like 10,000 contractors every year. Every year we build an actual project ourselves for a homeowner, and we have to deal with their budget constraints. And so that forces us to take a good hard look at what we're doing and say, okay, well, the customer wants all these features and we want to build all these features because they're really cool and we want to show contractors how to build them. But the budget is this much. So how can we do it? So we've taken a lot of time and we've built something called the Contractor Support Manual, which is a tool that puts us in a position to say, okay, I want to build a fire feature. Here are 2 or 3 or 4 different materials that I could use that won't require any cuts. And if I can eliminate cuts from the construction of that feature, well, that means that I can build it in this many man hours. So that means that I could potentially offer a fire feature to a customer for this price instead of that price. And I think that that's one of the key things that we all need to be able to do is think about what is it that the customer really wants. Think about what is it that I know how to do really well. What do I have access to? What tools and what materials do I have? And then take a step back and optimize everything so that it is the lowest cost possible to you without compromising the aesthetics of the project and the brand that you want to project out there, without compromising the experience for the customer, the value for the customer. They're still getting the thing that they want, and without compromising the quality of the build either. So things like designing a patio to match the dimensions of the paver that you're using. If you're working with something like our blue collection, all the dimensions are multiples of 3 1/4 inches. So if you're using 3 1/4 inches as your multiple for the length and width of a patio area, it is very conceivable to design an entire surface that requires 0 cuts. If I don't have to cut at all, that means the project is completed in much less time. If it's completed in much less time, that means that I can deliver that project at a lower cost to my consumer while still maintaining the profit margins that keep my business alive. And that makes me win because the customer sees me as being very value oriented, and that's where they want to invest their money.
Yeah, absolutely. I love those different advice points that you provided there, from just being more efficient on a job site, and not only, the tools that you can invest in on a job site, but really focusing on the products that you're offering. And like you said, the modular ability of these products, that you don't have to do cuts, that you can implement them in the quoting process to know that you are going to save the most amount of time on a job site while being able to make the most amount of money from those different features.
Yeah. And there's lots of other options like that too. Like, look at the tools that you're using. Are there tools that could get the job done faster or easier? Using things like dustless cutting equipment. Maybe that saves you an hour or two on cleanup every day, and that you have to pay for that hour or two of cleanup every day. So that impacts the final cost for the customer and your bottom line. Maybe it's the type of base material that you're using. Maybe in this application, you can look at something like open graded base material because it greatly reduces the compaction time required. Or maybe you look at something like synthetic bases, like Gator base might be a good option because that could reduce the construction time. So, from top to bottom, there's an opportunity and the term is referred to as value engineering, to value engineer a project, and you look at every aspect of it and figure out how can I derive the greatest value out of this part of the job so that I lower my cost, I lower the cost to the customer, but I maintain or improve my profits. It is entirely conceivable for every single contractor out there to end up being the low bidder on a project, come in with the lowest price, but still be making the most profit because you are smarter about your approach. How to get there means taking the time to break down your projects, analyze the time required for each component, and then thinking about what can you do to tighten things up. And that means looking at the people you have, looking at the equipment and the tools that you have, looking at the materials that you use, the overall approach. And if you look at those 4 variables across any project, there are probably hundreds, if not thousands of dollars of tweaking that you can make so that you can win.
So we talked about price being a major variable with a customer maybe not wanting to move forward with different features or an outdoor living space. And you talked about offering phase work, doing the job in phases. We talked about being more efficient by choosing the right products to install on the job site, as well as different tools and installation methods that we can include in that. Is there another way that we can offer sort of financial relief to a customer when it comes to an objection that they might have in terms of price?
For sure. Well, one of the things that we've come out with this year is our Pave Now, Pay Later financing program, which is available exclusively for Techo Pros. And what's great about this is it gives the homeowner a variety of financing options for the project. So basically, as long as the project has Techo-Bloc on it and you're a Techo Pro, you can offer this financing package to your homeowner and they can finance a part or all of the project. And basically, they choose the package that they want. Some of them are as great as 0% financing for 12 months. So that completely delays all payments for an entire year. And you may think that homeowners don't really care about financing. A lot of my customers, they don't have a problem paying. But you'd be surprised because a lot of the stats around financing, when you look in the banking world and all the financial institutions, here's a few stats for you, but it's something like 50% of all projects, home renovation projects worth more than $5,000 have some form of financing involved. So half of every project that costs more than $5,000 has financing involved. First stat. Second stat. A third of homeowners choose the financing program offered by their contractor just out of pure convenience. They're already dealing with you for everything else. Why not deal with the financing as well through you? And that was one that really shocked me as we went through this whole process. But really, the more I thought about it, the more you think about it, I don't want to have to go to 2-3 different banks or take out a line of credit and negotiate all that, negotiate my rates. I'm already negotiating everything with you who's trying to sell me this job. If you're offering me this whole thing, okay, great. I can just sign with you and we're done. Perfect. Let's just do that. So there's that. There's also the fact that when you're offering financing to a homeowner, they tend to spend a little bit more with you because all of a sudden the financial pressure, as you put it, is a little lighter on my shoulders. So that fire feature, that water feature that originally I didn't have in mind, and then you present it to me, I'm like, oh man, that'd be really good, but that's just a little bit more than I wanted to spend on this project this year. All of a sudden, it's within my reach. And if you can say, look, you just pay next year with 0% financing, I might be interested in that. So the stats there show that the average project sale increases 43.8%. Which sounds crazy, but the stats that they had was the average project was worth just a shade over $10,000. And when the financing program was presented in the same market study, the average project sold was $14,380. So, I mean, that's a great way to grow your revenue, to grow your profit on a year-over-year basis without having to go do more work or sell more customers. So that's a huge thing. Another thing, the last stat on that subject, the closing rate for the contractors using the financing program goes from 25%, so 1 in every 4 customers that or potential customers turns into an actual customer, to 46%. So almost 1 in every 2 potential customers actually turns into a closed sale because you've made it so easy for them. So that's a great tool that we're really excited to offer, because all of a sudden the odds are more in your favor than ever to be successful.
Absolutely. That's really interesting. And how, if a contractor is interested in this now, and the first step, I guess, would be to become a Techo Pro, what are the requirements to become a Techo Pro?
So to be a Techo Pro, basically, we're looking for good, reliable, qualified contractors, which means that you've been in business for at least 2 years. You have stellar references that we look into. We conduct a few job site visits of paver projects, wall projects, active sites, and completed sites. We have a full checklist of things that our team of ICPI and NCMA certified contract or reps are able to check out. And then we take all that data and we store it in our database on each Techo Pro. We ask that Techo Pros have a good credit rating with their local dealers, that they have proper liability insurance, proper business licenses. Everything that a good contractor has, it's just basically a checklist we run down. We make sure that you're good, because we refer Techo Pros out to homeowners. So when people come to our website or click on any of our digital advertisements, we direct them to the Techo-Bloc Village, which is basically a directory of all of our Techo Pros. And that's where contractors can, or homeowners can look at the profiles of the different contractors and see who they want to reach out to. We also have a concierge service, or it's kind of like a white glove matchmaking service. So if the homeowner doesn't want to browse through a bunch of different profiles online, they can reach out to us. We'll ask them a few questions, get a better understanding of what they have in mind, including the budget and the scope of the project. And then we'll reach out to 3 local Techo Pros, and we'll tell them that we have this lead. And if they're interested, we hand them over the information and we match them up with the homeowner so that they can follow up.
Yeah, that's great information to just get out there for anybody that's interested in going down that avenue. A lot of value that you can add into your business. Now, getting back to these outdoor living spaces, I'm sure that there are objections with some contractors not wanting to get into expanding their business through these avenues of learning how to install these new features or outdoor living spaces. Especially those who maybe have become more complacent with their business and are just looking to just coast, and they're feeling comfortable with the business that they have. But what is Techo-Bloc doing to support these contractors that do want to go down this avenue, that do want to add as much value to their projects and to their customers as possible? What is Techo-Bloc working on to support these contractors?
I love this question because it's a 2-part question. The first part gets me really excited because that there is a challenge that we face all the time when we're talking to contractors. We're like, I don't know, I don't want to get into these fire pits and outdoor kitchens and stuff. It looks complicated. I never built an outdoor grill island before. I don't want to lose my shirt. I'm only making 10 or 12 points on my projects now anyway. So if I try something new and I mess it up, that means I'm not making any profit on the job. And I only do like 15 jobs a year, so I can't afford to not make a profit on a job. So I'm just going to stay where I am. And, the reality is we're in an industry that is growing like crazy right now. And if you look at the industry reports that have just come out, there's a report that's put out by the Fredonia Group. And it shows that the hardscape industry is going to be worth over $4.2 billion in the next few years. So that's billion with a B. So that's no reason to be sitting back and saying, well, I'm just good where I am, because there's no reason why your business should not be on fire and growing hand over fist right now. So if you just want to sit back and not do anything, that's cool. You can keep doing what you're doing. That's fine. But you're missing out on a huge opportunity. So that's part one. I just wanted to get that out there because it's billions of dollars, guys. Like it's just waiting there for us to go get it. What do you do, or what have we done to be able to make that easier for guys to dip their toe into that water? There's a few things. The one thing I mentioned it a little bit earlier was the contractor support manual. So what we've done is we've put together this document that you can visit our website, you can download for free, and you can get basically the plans, materials list, assembly instructions, required labor, required tools to build anything from water features to fire features to grill islands to sitting features to tables, everything that you could possibly build to dress up an outdoor space, you can find in this contractor support manual. And we have, it's a 140 something page guide with almost 30 different models, so different features that you can build. And what's cool is we looked at it from the perspective of I'm a contractor trying to buy Techo-Bloc materials from my local dealer, and I want to do this as painlessly as possible because I don't do this all the time, but I understand it's an opportunity and I want to be able to capitalize on it. So what we have is row by row, step by step instructions to build any of those features that I just mentioned. I have exactly the quantities of materials, and those quantities of materials are optimized for full pallet quantities as much as possible and full row quantities as much as possible. So what that means is, for example, the small bench that we built in this year's contractor showcase project combined with the fire pit consumes exactly one full pallet of Borealis wall and exactly 3 rows of graphics wall. So that means that it becomes very easy for me to order my materials from my local dealer and not have any waste. On top of it, anytime there are cuts, and we try to reduce the cuts to a point where a lot of these features have 0 cuts in them, when I do have cuts, the cut salvages both pieces of the original unit. So I cut it in half. One half gets used on one end of the feature, the other half gets used on the other end of the feature. And by having that step-by-step walkthrough and being able to even tell you that this grill island, for example, will take 6 hours to build with 2 people for a total of 12 to 14 man hours, and we add that little buffer in, all of a sudden you can run down the checklist, you can put in your unit cost for all of the things that you need to buy to build it, you can put in your unit cost for the different laborers that you would have on site working, you can figure out the number of hours because it's already written there for you. You know the quantities because that's already written for you. So you just do the math and now you know exactly what it costs you to build that feature, exactly how much time it will take to build that feature. So you should feel a lot more confident offering that in a project and then adding the appropriate profit margin to it so that you're happy to sell it to the customer. And by taking this approach, it means that you're most likely going to be able to offer someone a grill island or a fire feature or a water feature or a seat wall or a bench at a lower cost than your competitors while still being profitable and not having any of the guesswork involved. So I think that that's a huge tool that we've put together that allows any contractor to get into that game and grow their business. Now, on top of that, we also have in our catalog a bunch of other features that are pre-packaged. So the contractor support manual is giving you a shopping list and instructions. In our catalog, we have features that are pre-packaged. So for example, we have a variety of fire features that everything comes on the pallet. So all you need to do is just order the Valencia fire pit or order the Prescott fire pit, and you have all the blocks, you have all the caps, everything is pre-cut for you. You have the steel insert for wood burning applications that comes with it. So you don't have to have any guesswork at all. You just follow the instruction manual that comes on the pallet. So I think we've made it pretty easy for any contractor to be able to get into that game and be able to offer a higher value, not higher price necessarily, just higher value outcome to the customer.
And I love the investment that Techo-Bloc has done into contractors, into helping them be more efficient and to learn these new skills to implement in their business, whether it's through their showcases, summits, or even these new resources that you're putting out there. This contractor support manual, where can a contractor get their hands on this?
Super easy. You go to techo-bloc.com, techo-bloc.com/support-manual. So techo-bloc.com/support-manual. You go there, you can download the individual guides per feature type if you want. So if you want to just see the little mini book on fire features, you go get that. You want the mini book on water features, you go get that. Or if you scroll all the way down to the bottom, you can get the master guide, which is, like I said, something like 140 pages. And you have everything in there, including a bunch of cross sections for different construction applications. For example, using synthetic base to install a heated pavement, that's in there too. And all the way at the back, it's 2 full pages of all the specialty hardscape tools that any hardscaper should have in their trailer or in their truck at all times if they want to be as efficient as possible. So there's some great value there.
Absolutely. And Alex, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to talk with us about outdoor features. As we close out this interview, is there anything else on your mind in terms of outdoor features or Techo-Bloc that you want to highlight before we close down?
I said before, like, we're in an industry that is growing, and it's growing actually faster than any other part of the outdoor living industries, if you will. Like anything pertaining to landscape, hardscape is growing faster than anything else. And one of the reasons why that's growing faster than anything else is because homeowners are more inclined to invest more heavily in things that they feel represent greater value to them. This is what the actual independent market studies are showing us. People are willing to spend more money on things like outdoor kitchens, on things like fire features, on things like landscape lighting, smart and connected landscape lighting, because these are things that help them enjoy their outdoor space more. So if anything, I just want to make it clear that we should never be shy to offer these things to our customers. We should never be reluctant to put a number that is bigger than we both thought we would get to originally in front of that customer, because as you so eloquently put it before, we're doing them a disservice by not showing them what their backyard could be. And we're the best person to do that. We're professionals. We're always trying to get better and offer better solutions to our customers, and they deserve the experience of working together with us. That is the mindset that everyone listening to this needs to have the next time you walk in to meet with a customer.
Absolutely. And Alex, thank you so much for joining us here. It was a pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you again. And if for anybody listening out there that is new to Techo-Bloc, maybe for some reason hasn't even heard of Techo-Bloc, where would you send them?
So go to techobloc.com. For sure, that's the best place to go. Also, if you want to get in with our community of contractors, we have over 60,000 followers on Instagram. So follow us on Insta at Techo-Bloc, all one word, no hyphen. So TECHOBLOC. And if you want to follow me, it's Alex from Techo-Bloc, so at Alex from Techo-Bloc. And we're on there all the time, and we're always sharing awesome projects and ideas from contractors. And we love what we do. So if you're a hardscaper, even if you don't buy our products or don't like our products, I still think it's worth following us just to get some cool ideas. And our paths will cross at some point. I'm sure we'll convince you why you should be working with us.
Thank you for listening to today's podcast episode. Visit us at howtohardscape.com for more information on the subject. Let us know what you want to learn about in future episodes by reaching out to us on our social channels. We are at howtohardscape everywhere, and contact at howtohardscape.com if you want to shoot us an email and take a look at the resources that Techo-Bloc has to offer you at techobloc.com. Be sure to share this episode on your Instagram stories if you really enjoyed listening to Alex talk with us about outdoor living spaces, and maybe shoot a few takeaways from this episode his way to let him know that you listened into it. We'd love it if you subscribe to this podcast and left us a review. This really helps us get traction with this podcast, get it out there into more people's ears, and to attract more guests to the show to deliver you more value. And thank you so much. We look forward to meeting with you next week on the How to Hardscape podcast.